Rising and ground, folks. We got another video here. This is the Trane. This is a TUD model or AUX. This looks about like an 80,000 BTU, 90% furnace. Here, this is a rental property. Landlord just wanted us to do a tune-up on the unit, make sure everything is okay. Biggest thing, you guys are gonna hear me say this a lot. Biggest thing on the maintenance is you want to avoid breakdowns. So if there's anything that you see that's on its way out or could potentially cause issues, that's something you need to check and something you need to bring up to the customer to let them know what's going on. This was the reusable mesh filter. It looked pretty good. I just spoke to the tenant. I mean, this isn't brand new, but it's not tremendously dirty. So that just need to be, sprayed down and washed, and that one is okay. But on these particular 90% Trane units, and I think Lennox, certain models, for some reason, they're notorious, like the intake. Well, the intake is here. The intake pipe, especially in the summertime when this heat doesn't run, you get a lot of bugs and a lot of buildup. So this is a very, very good point to bring up to customers. You always want to make sure the internal part of your furnace is clean. And you can see here, someone thought this furnace was a slot machine and put quarters in there. But internally, you want to make sure all the furnace is okay, because usually the buildup, from insects trying to make nests inside your burner assembly, if that happens over time and no one cleans this stuff out and it builds up, eventually that could cause ignition issues. Maybe a bee's nest can go inside your burner assembly, and now the furnace will misfire and doesn't light. So first things first, you guys want to just make sure that you keep the furnace clean. From a customer standpoint, best thing you can do is just keep the filter clean. But from a professional standpoint, and some customers are comfortable with opening and closing doors, but from a safety standpoint, anybody that performs service on a unit, make sure you have a service shutoff switch. Make sure the power is off, but you definitely want to keep all your parts internally clean. But from a professional standpoint, I didn't do this yet, I just got here, but after I clean this unit, I definitely want to check the igniter, check the sensor, and I definitely want to check that blower wheel, make sure everything's clean. This furnace has to be at least, I want to say like maybe 10, 12 years old. So this furnace is up there, but I definitely got to get everything opened up and cleaned up. And yeah, I'll shoot another video once I get everything cleaned up. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright guys, this is part 2. Maybe I gotta invest in like a GoPro. I gotta make this in parts because I only got 2 fingers and I gotta keep a phone on the camera here. But as you can see, disconnected the igniter, the sensor, and this igniter. It's kind of hard to see with the light, but the normal color, the flame sensor. The normal color on the flame sensor is that light silver color you see there. But whenever the flame sensor gets oxidized, which is totally normal because the flame sensor sits in the direction of where the flame comes out or goes inside the unit. But after a while, this oxidation that builds up on the sensor could cause this flame sensor to cause the heat to short cycle. So as part of the maintenance, you can get, some guys use a dollar bill, but you can use a piece of emery cloth, sandpaper, sand that down. And the reason why I'm explaining this like this is because I can tell you now, out of every 10 no heat service calls, guarantee about 4 or 5 of them are probably going to be related to a dirty sensor, which in turn is related to maintenance. This is something that we check every time we come out. And here with this particular igniter, you stick a meter to this. That's what we do, and we ohm it out. Generically, most igniters are rated for, well, it's specific to the manufacturer, but usually you don't want the resistance to be close to 100. Now this could be different. I know some igniters can be at least like 200 or 300 ohms, but generically, if we test this igniter and the ohms are high, it depends on the age and condition of the unit. Even though the igniter is working, that could be a sign that the igniter is on its way out. So that's something that's very, very important for you to look up before you recommend replacing an igniter on the maintenance. Make sure you know what the specs are for it. And as you can see, we got everything cleaned up. Blower wheel wasn't too bad. We got a new filter in. The capacitor is okay. That's another thing, the capacitor for the blower motor. This motor, not the inducer motor, this thing takes the draft out of your furnace. But your blower motor, this is the fan that runs constantly to blow air in the house. You definitely want to make sure that capacitor is checked, because if that thing goes out, as you guys seen in the YouTube shorts the other day, we had to do a motor, and also we had to do a wheel on another property. But replacing that motor can be expensive, so if there's anything preventative-wise we can do to avoid, breakdowns, and most importantly, inconvenience, this stuff does break down. On the coldest day of the year or hottest day, depends if it's AC or heat. But yeah, I'll drop a third part once we fire this thing up. I got to get the igniter checked and the sensor cleaned. Another thing too, carbon monoxide, like the efficiency. We have a room carbon monoxide detector, but there's another one that sticks in the flue that pretty much tests the efficiency of the furnace. That's a good thing to have as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cleaned up, and I'll drop a third part here so you guys can see. Alright, I just fired it up. As you can see from the pictures, the igniter was still within range, and also I pulled it out. The igniter is not discolored, so that's another thing too. It's still in good condition, and the ohm reading is still within range. Cleaned the flame sensor. Another very, very important thing, and like I said, I have no problem making these videos because a lot of this stuff happens all the time. And if you can't avoid, any issues, like that's what it's about. No one wants recalls, and things always break down when you're halfway across town, or like say you can't get to it instantly. So always dot your I's and cross your T's on the maintenance. This is a 90% furnace, so essentially the biggest difference between standard efficiency and 90%, this 90% furnace has a drain, so it produces water. I don't have to go into the technical jargon about what happens, but essentially this 90% furnace, it produces water, and there's a collection box or a condensate trap here that the water flows into, and it goes into the pump. Now, I don't know what happened here. Did that flow switch malfunction? But that's definitely not good there. Also, anytime you have a system that produces water and it has a condensate pump, you definitely want to test it. It did turn on when I got here, when I turned the unit off, but I still want to check that out just to make sure there isn't any build up inside of the pump. But for sure, this unit is on the second floor, but anytime you have a unit on the second floor, I don't know why this is out. If something got disconnected or broken, but this furnace sits in a fan, you definitely need that flow switch on this fan. Purpose of that flow switch, if something happens to the furnace drains or the AC drains, water's going to fill up inside the unit and eventually sit on the pan. And if that pan fills up to a certain level, that flow switch turns the unit off. So you definitely want that inside the unit. I got to look into that, but for sure we definitely want that connected. And once again, this is for the heat. I don't know the history of the AC here. We just picked up this account, but that's something I definitely want to jump more into. And like I said, if something's indeed wrong with this float switch, I would recommend putting in another switch, because the last thing you want is for this thing to fill up, and now you got to replace the ceiling on the first floor. So there you guys have it in a nutshell. Trane, 90,000 or 80,000 BTU. I believe this is 80,000. Sorry about that. I'm getting this confused with another unit. This is an 80,000 BTU 90% furnace, and this is just quick tune up. And like you said, most importantly, we like to keep our eye out for what can happen down the line. Like I said, not only what works now, but we always like to tell customers about what to look out for in the future. So anything that can that can potentially like break down, whether it be a float switch or anything like that, that's something we definitely want to bring to their attention. So All right, peace out, you guys. I'll see you in the next one.